Welcome to Fed Snacks, a show where we bring you small bites of insights from former federal tech officials. Today, we're talking to Will Mortenson, former director of the Office of Geography at the National Geospatial-Intelligence Agency. He's currently the executive director of the Overture Maps Foundation. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So first, tell me and our audience what you did at NGA and what your responsibilities there were, how it evolved, how that worked out for you.
Sure. So I actually joined NGA in 2004, I guess it'd be 2006. I left the Army in 2004, did a couple years as a contractor supporting NGA before going over to them as a government official. Did a lot of integration activities in NGA. I have a background in airborne reconnaissance, so I did a lot of integration activities associated with that. Took me to different organizations within NGA, a lot of the engineering acquisition, and then ultimately doing several deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. And then coming back from those, I went over to start working in geography, originally with human geography. A lot of that, NGA was just starting up their program, so I helped draft a bunch of policy guidance on how we were going to use human geography, how the mission was going to work. Ultimately, just continued to grow in that particular organization till I became the senior GEOIN official, or senior GEOIN, what do they call it? Authority for Human Geography and Cartography early in January of last year. Did that for, really, it was a very brief period of time because the director of the Office of Geography had moved on, and so they needed somebody to move into that position. So I served as the deputy director for the Office of Geography. It's a fairly large organization. I would argue it's probably one of the larger organizations in NGA. I won't get into specifics because there's obviously sensitivities about that.
Well, you set up my next question super well, because I wanted to talk about the transition out of government and into your position now at Overture. What was that like, and how did you manage it?
I'd be lying if I didn't say it was a little scary. Having been in the government for almost 27 years, it's hard, I think, for a lot of government officials to kind of hang it up, especially when you haven't kind of reached that retirement threshold. I think it was a challenge, but it was also a little refreshing to see, to make the jump and kind of see the individuals you're working with. And for me, I've always been a type of person that likes to move quickly on activities and get things done. As you probably are well aware, that's difficult in the government, just because the way the government's structured, there's a lot of bureaucracy that just happens to be there.
Well, to that end, give me the sort of the download on Overture and what it's doing to support industry and the government in this space.
We're largely a conglomerate of, I think we're about at 43 organizations now. We have a steering committee that consists of Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, and TomTom, but our larger group of individual contributors and organizations. The idea here being is that, why are we all creating the same map multiple times? Why don't we come together, pool our resources, generate a really solid base map that everybody can use, keep that thing open, and then implement GERS IDs, which is our global entity reference system, implement that for every feature on the ground. So now as a company or organization or government entity, you can use that base map, save yourself resources, and then layer your kind of proprietary or commodity data on top of that. So it's sort of a benefit for everyone while also saving resources. So I'm excited by it because it's one of the challenges I've seen within government channels and industry is, conflation is hard, and it ultimately results in like a major data tax, which is what Overture calls it, right? I know my predecessor Mark, I think, coined the term, but it does constitute a significant amount of money and resources to try and bring data sets together. By implementing things like GERS IDs, we think it's going to ultimately result in not only better base map, but also allows us to start integrating non-geospatial data into our geospatial holdings.
The bureaucracy in government on those sort of duplicative works and maps, how is this moving that forward, and what's your sort of goals there in working with the organizations you mentioned as well as the government?
Well, I think for me, the large priority. So for this year, we've kind of set some strategic objectives of growing our places data set, expanding GERS adoption, and kind of continued momentum. So those are our large driving objectives. I think the main way we're going about this is largely communication. I think we need to have an effective communication strategy and largely articulate more effectively what Overture is and what GERS is as well, because every organization may not see it the same way. And so we need to cater the message to the individuals we're talking to. And so some of that will come through new demonstrations of capabilities. We've already been reaching out to multiple organizations. I can't even tell you the number that I've talked to since I've coming on board, to include government entities. And we have some pretty big integration activities that are going to be happening over the next couple of months that I think are going to really drive even more usage by the community.
I'll end on this just because, what we're doing here in this series is trying to get an idea of how transitions work from government or out of government. So what is your advice for federal executives, federal IT folks, or former feds who are trying to navigate that transition?
Find your passion and go after it, right? As I said before, like government officials are passionate about their mission. They love what they do. They love the country. That is fantastic. I think if you come across a situation like I did, where you find something that you're passionate about, don't be afraid to take the plunge, right? But I think everybody can be successful if they decide to move on and try something new. So that'd be sort of my recommendation: is pursue your passion.
Yeah, that's definitely something that rings pretty true, I think, to most of our listeners and certainly anyone who's moving out of government. Will, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For more Fed snacks, head to govciomedia.com.